What's up, guys? We are here with another deck profile, so why don't you tell us who you are, what place you got, and what you're playing.
Hey guys, I'm Nate, so I got second place for that tournament. If you saw the last deck profile, or if you're seeing this one first, it's also Tri-Brigade. It was a mirror match. It was a pretty interesting match because it's the first time I've had a real Tri-Brigade mirror match where it was pure and not a random one like Melfi or Zoo. So I had a lot of fun with that one. There was a lot of thought I had to put into it. I created some new combos that I thought of that day for that match. They ended up coming in handy that match. So it was a pretty good day.
All right, let's see the deck.
All right, so standard Tri-Brigade list, 3 Rescue Cat. You can't not play Rescue Cat in Tri-Brigade because the pluses you get off of a 1-card Link 2 is crazy. Plus, not only when you do that, you get to use Kit's effect. Overall, it's a hell of a plus. Fractal at 3. I mean, you also can't play Fractal anything less than 3. The best Tri-Brigade monster, gets you so much value. For my deck, usually Fractal can be a 1-card access code. I mean, when you send him, send Kit, send another to get send Nerval to get Keras, and then you just banish to make a Link 3 and then make access code. It's pretty good follow-up. 3 Keras. Keras is the second best Tri-Brigade monster. I mean, he's pretty good. Or no, actually third best, technically. He's pretty good. I mean, discarding a Beast Warrior Wing Beast to special summon himself, and then again doing the banish effects to special Link monster, absolutely crazy. 3 Nerval. I was playing Nerval at 2 for a long time, but the pluses you get off of sending him to grave every turn or getting him off of Revolt are too crazy. You can't play him at less than 3, at least in my opinion. And the last one, 2 Kit. I'm thinking about upping her to 3, but for right now, I've been playing her at 2. I've seen some pretty good success with her. She's like, all the Tri-Brigade monsters that you play are amazing. She's pretty good. You send her, send Nerval, plus. So that's all the Tri-Brigades. Next, we'll get into hand traps. So we've got 2 Droll. I'm probably going to change these. Droll just was what I thought of at the time. I couldn't find my 3rd DD Crow, so it was Droll for that. Droll hits not very many decks right now. My opponent dropped Droll on me, and it stopped me for a turn when I was playing the Tri-Brigade Mirror. But, I mean, it's not amazing right now. It does stop Drytron, and it can hurt Virtual World. 3 Bell. So, apparently not a lot of people are playing this in the meta right now. But Bell at 3 is insane, because if you're playing the Mirror match, you just Ash their Revolt, and then they're like, wow, you're playing Bell? Oh, well, I guess I just lose. And then I belled my opponent's Revolt like 4 times in the same match. It was nuts. 3 Ash. Doesn't really need an explanation because it's Ash. I don't know what else to say there. It's Ash. 2 DD Crow. So, funny enough, a lot of people aren't playing DD Crow right now either, but I do because I love DD Crow for this archetype because it's a winged beast, discard fodder for Keras, and DD Crow is just a good card. My opponent was playing Virtual World, and I banished a King Long with DD Crow, and he's like, wow, you're playing DD Crow? I'm like, yep. And then he lost game 1. 3 Gamma, and 1 Driver. Gamma is great protection for your Fractal, Kit, Nerval, and Rescue Cat. After that point, obviously, it doesn't come in much handy, but I find it obligatory because I don't want to lose those effects. Also, the next card I'm going to show, which is a spell, it also can protect that if you don't have any monsters yet. So that's it for hand traps and monsters. Next, we'll get into spells. So, obviously, it's at 1, but 1 Tanky. Tanky searches Fractal. Fractal lets you go off. Not much else to say there. Plus, it gives him 100 to attack, so that could come up as well. This is kind of controversial. Not a lot of people play it anymore, but 1 Rendezvous. I actually wouldn't have lost the match against Evan if I had activated this card on my Ferjit, but it is what it is. And also, the Banish Instead effect catches people off guard. So, I like the card. I keep it at 1. I may cut it for a 3rd Kit. We'll see. It's also, so you don't have to waste a Tri-Brigade monster if you want to activate Kit to chain block your Nerval off of Revolt. That's also why I like to play it. 1 Called By. I like Called By as a card. It's pretty hard not to play Called By in this format. Hand traps just kind of hurt. Plus, it's a good crossed-out target if you need to cross out your opponent's Called By. One Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is great if you don't have Fractal to send Nerval or send Kit and then send Nerval. So, I like Foolish Burial at 1. Obviously, you're not going to get it more than 1, but I like the card, so. 2 Pot of Prosperity. I would play this at 3, but I don't have a 3rd, and the card is kind of expensive right now. But we'll see. It's great because you have pretty much 3 targets, depending on what you're going against and what you're doing. You could probably, every time, find 3 targets that you're not going to need to banish for Prosperity. So, you're not going to banish 6 unless you're desperate, and I've never been desperate enough to banish 6. So, you don't want to waste too many resources, so that's about all I have for that card. That's it for spells. Next is traps. So, another hand trap, yes, but it's a trap. 3 Imperm. It's better effect veiler. That's all I can say about it. The downside is you can't activate it from hand if you control cards, but if you don't, it's pretty good. Come back. It can stop your opponent's Apollosa if you're going against the mirror again, so it's pretty good. 2, Revolt. Revolt is the best card in the deck. Revolt gets you a +2, a non-targeting banish, and more materials in the graveyard to go off on your next turn if your opponent can't kill you. And they most likely won't be able to through a Revolt. I don't know much else what to say for it. Beware Bell, because Bell will kill this card every time.
Best card in the deck.
Best card in the deck, absolutely. And finally for traps, IO, because you don't play enough spells to warrant not playing this card, personally. IO is hilarious. I have won games on the back of IO. That's all there is to it. Obviously, this one's outdated. This is an older one, but it's not optional anymore. If it was optional, it'd be even more busted. And that's it for the main deck. 40 cards in all. I don't like playing anything higher than 40 usually, so that's it for the main. Next, we'll do the extra deck. So your Zeus package, 1 Sky Cavalry and 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus. Don't know what much else to say. This card's nuts. If you drop this on your opponent and they can't out it, it just lets you stop them from stopping you, so then you can go off on your next turn. So I like it a lot. I've played it ever since I started playing Tri-Brigade. 1 Almirage. I used to play Link Karibo, and then I played both. You don't have the space for both anymore. Almirage is more applicable than Link Karibo because you can normal summon Kit, link it off into Almirage, and then go off from there. Link Karibo only works with Nerval, or if you're playing the Lyrilisk version like I was at the time. 2, Farajit. I've thought about playing her at a 3, but I don't think it's worth it. She's really good. I wouldn't play less than 2 because it can be a great comeback mechanic and also just help you get into bigger cards like Access Code faster or more efficiently. And she's part of your main combo too, so you can't forget that. 1 Bear Bloom. I'm thinking about upping her to 2, but I mean, searching Revolt in this format is busted. If your opponent doesn't have the Ash, you have an automatic easy interruption going into Apollosa with this if you have to. I do have a combo that I'll share as well that I came up with that during this tournament. 1 Ancient Warrior's Oath, Double Dragon Lords. Double Dragon Lords is great because he's a 1600 beater. He gains 500 from his own attack, which is why he's 16. Sending a card from your field or hand to the graveyard to bounce a card in your opponent's field can just end games. I've absolutely ended games just off of this card. It's also a great interruption, and it can help bait out cards that you don't want to deal with or are having trouble dealing with. 1 Lambda. The reason I play Lambda is because if, for whatever reason, your opponent is playing Contact C, if you don't have Lambda, you lose immediately because you can't make anything else. So the day I put this card in, my opponent actually was playing B Trooper, and he dropped Contact C on me. And I laughed and said, well, I actually have an out to this, and then I made Lambda. Also, if you just can't think of anything else to make, sometimes it's good to make Lambda. And you can also use your, if you have to use Driver and Gamma, you can link those two so that you don't lose the Driver, so you can activate Gamma again later if you need to. One conductor. Honestly, she's in here because she's a vestige of when I played the Samord version with Leerlusk. But she's still a good link too. She's fodder. She's link fodder. That's it. She's a winged beast you can summon off of a Tri-Brigade to go into more things. One Doomingle. Funny enough, his effect has come up a couple times, and I actually won games because of it. If your opponent has no monsters in the graveyard, he doubles his attack, basically. He's 48 beater. He can shuffle a card from your opponent's grave into the deck, which can help prevent effects that happen in the graveyard. And he's also just a link 3 you can summon off of a Tri-Brigade effect to go into a link 4. Rugal the Silver Sheller is the next link 3. He's another link 3 that's a Beast Warrior Wing Beast type. He plus Shureg is pretty good too. So if you end your turn where you could make Apollosa, but you had this and another monster to make Silver Sheller, it's a great combo because you can set Revolt. If your opponent tries to bait out the Revolt, you can activate it still. Get the Shureg, don't activate his effect, then you can use his effect during their main phase and summon a monster from hand and then banish off a Shureg. Because Shureg is during your turn, or excuse me, Shureg is when he is summoned or when a tri-type is summoned. So that effect can catch people off guard. I've actually caught people off guard with it before. It's pretty funny. So just a little micro combo you can do. One Apollosa. The basic combo makes her for 3 plus a Revolt set. So it's pretty hard to justify not playing her. Plus 24 beater if you have to do that isn't terrible. One access code. I played this deck for a while without an access code. And then once I added an access code, I started winning way more games because access code is your game closer. If your opponent can't play because you revolted them, so you have a Shurug on the field and you can make access code on the follow-up, this is an OTK every time. This is 83 damage. So he's a great finisher card, I like to say. He's kind of expensive, obviously, but I had a pretty good deal I traded for him, so I do have an access code. I wouldn't recommend not playing him in the deck. You can get away with it if you play Boral Sword, but Boral Sword isn't as good because he takes 3 monsters and is harder to make than this. Plus, this has a better effect anyway. And finally, 2 Shureg the Ominous Omen. My recommendation, for Shureg is to play as many Shureg as you play Revolt. That was the advice I was given, and that's the advice I pass on. I've thought about playing 3 Revolt. If I play 3 Revolt, I'll probably play a 3rd Shureg because his effect is stupidly good. Non-targeting banish that can be done every turn is pretty good. He is a hard once per turn, unfortunately, so you'll never be summoning 2 at the same time, but he's a pretty good card in his own right. And when he leaves, he adds a card with level less than or equal to the number of banished Beast Warrior Wing Beast. So great follow-up there as well. And finally, I will show off the side deck I was playing for this match, or this tournament. 3 Nib. A lot of decks can either be severely hurt by or lose to Nib, so I like to keep it in pretty much all my sides. Can't really think off the top of my head of any meta decks that immediately just die to Nib, but it can be a good disruption. It can catch decks off guard if they weren't playing around it. The 3rd Droll, again, probably going to cut this or just take the Drolls to the side, but Droll isn't as effective in this format other than against really Drytron and maybe Virtual World. And even then, Virtual World activates from deck most of their things. So that's it, I believe. Nope, that's not it for the hand traps, excuse me. Final hand trap I was siding, Triple Lancia. You might be thinking, wow, that's weird. Tri-Brigade playing 3 Lancia in the side. Well, I mean, there's a lot of decks that banish. Virtual World loses to this card 9 times out of 10. Tri-Brigade loses to this card 9 times out of 10. Drytron has to play around this card if you drop it on them. It's a lot harder for them to build their best board if you Lancia them. Plus, it's a cross-out target. Tri-Brigade pretty much auto-loses to it, so if you play this and cross-out, it's a pretty good combo as well. I tended to side out hand traps I didn't need. Droll got sided out a lot, honestly. That's it for the hand traps on my side. Now we'll go on to spells, which is most of the rest of it. Triple Lightning Storm. I like Lightning Storm as a card a lot. Most of the matches where I had it, I won because It's just a really good card. Regeki or Harpy's Feather Duster, as long as you don't control any monster. Is it monsters or cards? I always forget. Face-up cards. Yeah, I know. I had to read the card. Believe it or not, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players read cards. So if you control no face-up cards, this is great for wiping part or all of your opponent's main issues you have to deal with. Every game I activated on, I won. Triple Crossout. Crossout isn't as amazing as we were first thinking it was when it came out, at least in my opinion. However, Crossout is still a hell of a card. I mean, it can prevent you from losing to the hand trap that would make you lose that interaction, like Lancia, or anything else that I can't think of right now that your opponent might activate. Also, this card is insane in the mirror match. On your opponent's turn, if you had this set, they go to Fractal and you chain Crossout, call Fractal, they're not going to be too happy. Also, you could call Rescue Cat or any number of other cards with this. This card's crazy in a mirror match as well as against hand traps. One Harpy's Feather Duster. I like Harpies as a card as well. If you really need a ton of back row hate, this plus Lightning Storm can be an easy side out for Gamma if Gamma isn't useful in your current match. That's all really there is to say for Duster. And finally, Red Reboot. Actually, Red Reboot won me the game against the person recording this, Jordan, when he was playing his Live Twin deck. Red Reboot is a dumb... It was one of the amazement traps, and I just said no. I had it set too. He thought it was Revolt. I had it set. So it's a great fake out card if you have to set it in, because your opponent will assume it's Revolt, and then they'll just lose when they activate a trap. Red Reboot is a great card when you're up against a back row deck and you top deck it or draw it, get it off of Pot of Prosperity, something like that, and your opponent says, ooh, trap, and you're like, ooh, no. And then you just OTK them if you have the materials. And if you don't, well, then your opponent has an extra trap, so that's not great. And you just paid half your life from hand. But other than that, Red Reboot's a hell of a card. I love it.
All right, thanks for the profile. You got anyone to shout out, anything like that?
Shout outs to Evan, because he was my opponent, and I barely lost to him, mostly due to a little interaction that I hadn't thought of. I didn't see how much time was left, so I tried using my life points as a resource without realizing there wasn't much time. Shout outs to Jordan for once again having me on his channel, because he's awesome. Believe it or not, he's pretty cool. Shout outs to Roberto. He is the one who traded me originally this deck when I came back to tournament play, and it was my first tournament deck of 2020. I hadn't played since January 2019, and even then, yeah, the format's changed significantly. That's about all I have for shout outs. So,
all right.
Thank you all
Thanks
for
for the
watching.
deck profile.